And I want to ask you to share one of the most important ingredients that I've found in your teaching, and that's creating and working with passion for the music.
You know, interestingly, as I've progressed as a teacher, I think, or as I've grown as a teacher, especially with the experience of and not to belabor on this, but the experience of having lost a child turned me around as a teacher. Not turned me around, but I think it made me realize that my real passion back then wasn't as much for the music. It was making the music with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was passion for music, but passion for making the music with the kids, I think now I realize, because when I came back to teaching after that experience, I started focusing more, or started being more aware on how to make the kids feel welcome, how to make them feel like they were part of a family, how to make them feel like they were accepted, how to make them feel like they were connected to each other. And that's what was happening back then, but I didn't realize it. Back then, I wanted the band to sound incredible. But at the same time, I realized now, looking back, that I was getting an incredible thrill out of watching the kids looking at each other and smiling when it sounded really good. Mm-hmm. And where they would help each other during rehearsal, where they would help each other during personal crises for each other, and also the good of the ensemble, where there was just so much camaraderie back then. And a lot of my kids, because I worked in a very disadvantaged area, a lot of my kids had some pretty difficult stories, and they were going through some very difficult times. And the band is what cemented everybody together. So now, whenever I do clinics, one of the big things, one of the first things that I do when I do a clinic is I ask the kids to turn around and say hello to each other and ask each other questions. Ask the person next to you a few questions. Ask the person behind you a few questions. All of a sudden, instead of doing an all county and you never got to talk to anybody, you know, and I asked the kids to high five each other before rehearsal. After rehearsal, I asked them to high five each other and congratulate each other. I tell them, you guys, you're never going to be all together in the same room again. This is it. This particular group of kids, this is the only time you're ever going to be together. So and I always tell them, you guys are going to make an entire auditorium packed with people very happy that night because of that instrument you're holding in your hand. It's not a hunk of metal. It's not a piece of wood. It's something that makes people happy because of you and because of the person next to you. So that whole connectivity between the kids was happening back then, but I didn't realize it. So I think as far as passion, there was an innate passion that I didn't realize on connecting with all of them. And the music was secondary, even though it's primary. Once you grab a kid's heart and their soul, not to sound cliche, you've got the rest of them, and they'll everything else will fall into place. I think if we focus more on making the kids happy when they're making music together, rather than this had better sound, you know, awesome, or I'm gonna, whatever, you know, it's just a different mindset. You end up having a better product afterwards. So yeah, that passion was there to the point where, I mean, those, you know, some of those kids, you know, they still keep in contact with you. They still come over. They bring you their kids, you know, when their kids are born. They're with you during rough times in your life 20 years after they graduate. And I think passion with teaching should come more on connecting with the kids and making them feel happy. And everything else will be even better than it was if you were just focusing on trying to make the music sound awesome. That's my philosophy on that now.
What a great lesson for all of us.